All right, good morning, superstars. What you see up here is your lesson, 2.1, congruent polygons, answer keys. So I'm going to ask our awesome substitute to pause the video so you guys can check some answers. All right, welcome back. Let's go to the next part. Going to ask you to pause the video to check some answers. All right, welcome back again. That is not absolutely everything, but it's some good information for you to try and be able to see if you were able to do it lesson 2.1 correctly. Let's go ahead and take out a ruler or a straight edge, like a note card, ID card, a bus pass, something like that, and a highlighter. What we're going to be doing is 2.2 translations. Now, this is actually the easiest section in chapter 2 for students to truly be successful on both assessments, your quiz and your test. It says the objective is I can translate an image on the coordinate plane and write translation rules. So what you need to really just know is that a translation, we'll see it on the next slide very soon, is really just sliding the image around. So therefore, if you have a triangle, when you slide it around, you should have the exact same triangle, meaning it's just in a slightly different location. Later on, we'll learn about reflections and rotations and dilations, but right now, again, translations, the easiest thing is sliding around. So we're going to remember our directional counting, specifically when you were learning about coordinate planes, because again, that's what we're going to see in just a moment. Again, transformation, a change in the position, size, or shape of a figure. So that's the just general term. It's called a transformation. Maybe you've seen those Transformer movies. Again, they change position, size, or shape. But our specific one today is a translation. So for example, we have our pre-image here with triangle ABC. And then again, looking at different ones throughout chapter 2, you could change the orientation like rotation. You could dilation, which is changing the size. You could reflect it. But again, today we're going to focus on translation, which is sliding it around. So if you have your pre-image, hopefully you're using your straight edge to make that beautiful triangle there. We're going to go ahead and, again, move it around. But notice that the image, sometimes I call it the new image, is annotated with those marks there, A prime, B prime, and C prime. These little marks here, again, they are not exponent ones, so make sure it's kind of like an apostrophe almost. Just go ahead and make sure that you have it as a nice little mark there, if you will. Again, we call it prime, A prime, B prime, C prime, Optimus prime. Again, talking about our transformers. Remember, all the notes are online, videos online as well. So in case you are falling behind, you can get it from your partner. You can get the resources on Google Classroom as well. Then eventually, by the end of the chapter, we're going to actually do 2 transformations. And again, those are called composite transformations. So for this one, it went from the pre-image to the image to an additional image. So again, it's ABC, then it's A prime, B prime, C prime, and then it goes to A double prime, B double prime, and C double prime. So again, it's the 2 little marks there, or double primes. Notice how you have the nice little triangle symbol there, and the arrow is representing that it is changing. Now remember, it can change position, size, or shape of a figure depending on what lesson we're doing in chapter 2. And then by the end, at the end of chapter 2 on the test, again, you have all of it together. Got to make sure you really read the instructions, please. All right, so again, 5 types of transformations. Our first one today, again, is a translation. A translation, again, is simply when we are sliding it around. So let me give you a moment to copy that, to slide it around. So we're going to use our directional counting. So for example, let's say we have our pre-image, and then the directions tell us to move left 2 and up 1. So again, we're just going to go ahead and practice counting. So go home, tell your parents that I taught you how to count today, and they'll be so excited. They're like, "You're so smart." As silly as it sounds, really that's all it is counting. Left and up, maybe right and up, right and down, or maybe even just to the left. So you really got to make sure you are reading the words or learning about the specific notation that we talk about. So again, sliding it. Notice how the arrow is showing you which direction it is sliding. So that means we have our pre-image here, and then we move or slide to the right, and then we have our image on the right. So again, your directions could actually be the words left, right. It depends. But the notation, what's called arrow notation, that's when students get a little bit stuck, but we'll try and help you out. It says a translation preserves the shape and size of a figure. Essentially, we could say that they are congruent images. It is the exact same shape and the exact same size, so therefore they are congruent. Oh, look at, we got our congruent symbol right there, just like from the other day. It's got the equal sign and the little wavy, the tilde on the top. Again, the pre-image is congruent to the image. Sometimes I call it the old image and the new image. Sometimes I call it the original image and the new image. But the correct, true term we want to use is pre-image and image. So it's kind of like before you do your transformation and then after you do your transformation. All right, it says translate 2 units right and 5 units up. What are the coordinates of the image? So we're going to go ahead and practice our counting. So what you would do on your homework is you would start with letter A. You would notice where you're located. You're technically on the y-axis. Notice how it's not asking you to graph it. So all I need you to do is to go ahead and make sure you've got your directions copied down. Make a triangle. You don't have to do all of these boxes, okay? Because you're going to be able to do that on your actual homework. Remember, if you want all these boxes, you can go online, you can print out this page, or you can use your Kami extension to actually do a digital version. All right, so if we were to, on the homework, put our pencil at A, and the directions say 2 units right, remember, we always do left or right movement first, which is the x-axis, and 5 units up, we always do the up or down direction next, which is the y. So let's see, 2 units right. Right, 1, 2, pause, and then we're going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. Now again, when you have your homework, the numbers might be a little bit easier to see, or you can again just put a little dot there and say, okay, that's really going to be A prime, and what is that location for A prime? And if you remember, it's in quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is in the top right. Quadrant 2 is in the top left, and then we just kind of travel around. We will have some questions specifically about the quadrants. So for example, we may ask you, what is the location of C prime? And if you do all of the translations correct, meaning the movement, plotting the points, you'll be able to clearly tell if it is in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if I move a right 2, up 5, again, that's good notes, but we're not actually going to drag it and put those marks on our actual assignment or assessment. It's just showing you the directional counting. Right 2 and up 5. Put a nice little dot there. We're going to label it A prime. And then if you need to do your counting, we always tell our students, start at the origin. So if I'm at the origin, which again is 0, 0, to get to A prime, I need to move right 1, 2, and then up a bunch of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So therefore, the coordinates of A prime would be positive 2 and positive 7. And again, that is stated in a parentheses. All right, so we do the exact same directional movement for B to be able to find B prime. So again, I put my pencil on B if this was your actual assignment, and you would move right 1, 2, because again, it says 2 units right. Then it says 5 units up. So we just count it up. On your homework, you're actually counting the boxes, and then you put a dot. Notice how we're still in quadrant 1. We label it as B prime, and then to find the actual coordinates of B prime, I go to the origin, and then I do my directional counting. To get to B prime, I'm going to go right 1, pause, and then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So therefore, the coordinates of B prime would be 1, 4 in a pair or set of parentheses. And then if you notice, it's going to be the exact same thing for C. So that's why students are so successful in this section, is because you're really just repeating the process over and over again. For the pre-image to become the image, you're just going to count again. Right 2, up 5. We put our little dot, we label it as C prime, and then again, to find the coordinates, we go to the origin, and then I count to get to C prime. Remember, x-axis is always first, so that's left or right. Right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pause, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 5, 5 in a set of parentheses. And then, of course, we connect it to make our beautiful new image. Again, on your homework, on your assessments, you wouldn't have these dashes there to represent your counting. You would just actually count your boxes. If you notice, the new triangle, or the image, is the same as the pre-image. It is just in a new location. And that's what's key about translations. It's the congruent image, meaning it's the exact same one, just in a different location. All right, so again, we already counted our numbers, 2, 7, 1, 4, and 5, 5. All right, so the words are actually a little bit easier. It's when it is the arrow notation that students struggle with. Now, on the arrow notation, remember the x-axis, the x part is always left or right movement. The y is always up and down. So what I tell my students is, before you start doing your counting on the actual assignment, is to go to any problem that you see that looks like this. You got the arrow notation because it has an arrow, is up above to actually put a little code, which is a capital letter. X plus 4, you would be counting 4 to the right, so you would put a capital R above. Y subtract 2, that is down, so you'd put the letter at the top. If it's X subtract 5, that's left, so you put the letter at the top, and so on. But since we didn't have to do absolutely everything and we're only talking about A, I'm going to go ahead and use the translation, the arrow notation, to do X plus 4. Now, if you notice, this is actually the same work that we did at the beginning of the year, at the first week of school. Actually, it was the first day of school. The A says -1, 3. So that -1 is the X value. So essentially, this -1 is going to be substituted at this X location. So if you have a graph, yeah, all you got to do is count 4 spaces to the right. But if you don't have a graph, you may just be able to do -1 plus 4 for the X part. And then for the Y part, it says Y subtract 2. Well, Y is 3, so I just write 3 subtract 2. So to change the A into A prime, I just do a little bit of addition or subtraction. So my A prime is going to be 3, 1. Again, if I did the counting on the number line or the coordinate planes, I'd still be able to get to 3, 1. Again, it's called arrow notation. So let's try this one real quick. Got a new point P stated as 6, -5. So remember, that's the actual location on a coordinate plane. And it wants us to do our arrow notation, because you got the little arrow there. X always goes first. Y is always second. But notice here, it just simply says X, which is a little code that you are not moving left or right. The X actually gets to stay as is. But the y, it says y subtract 6. So that one, again, if you had a graph, you would be counting left 6 spaces. But since we don't have a graph, we're just going to do a little bit of math with our numbers visible. So the 6 stays the same because, again, it's just simply x. It doesn't say x plus 1. It doesn't say x subtract 1. So the 6 gets to stay the same. But the -5, which is the y, remember it says y subtract 6. -5 subtract 6. So that means p prime would be 6, comma, -11. So again, being able to use those strategies to try and help you out. Again, it's back from the first week of school, specifically from 7th grade. Arrow notation. Then there are some problems. Maybe we give you the pictures. Maybe we just give you some numbers. We want you to figure out what the translation rule is. Now, it might be simple as counting, because if it's the picture, the counting. Now, the difficult part that students have when it's the picture-based problems is they forget to start at the original letter. So notice here, A is first. So you need to find which picture has the normal regular letters. That's called our pre-image. Then you need to practice trying to move to the image or the new image. And that's the one with the prime symbol again. So you're going to be very careful on the picture one. If it's not the picture one, like it's A becoming A prime, students are actually more successful on that one because it's already set up for them. So you need to ask yourself, how does a 12 become an 8? And how does a 7 become a -2? Going to give you guys about 30 seconds to communicate with your partner. How do those numbers change? Set my timer. 15 more seconds. Two, 1, 0. All right. So again, you could use your words. The arrow notation is actually a little bit better. So let's see. It's like a little solving equation. 12 plus x becomes 8. Because again, the 12 becomes an 8. So you're going to add a number to it. It's currently our unknown. Notice how we're solving equations, just like we did in chapter 1. You got a one-step equation. A lot of you knew that you would just have to subtract, right? So x is -4, which means we would be moving 4 spaces to the left. For the 7 to become -2, again, we have it set up, the 7 plus y, because again, it's the y location. Again, a lot of you knew that you'd be moving to the left, specifically 9 spaces. So y equals -9. So the words would be 4 units to the left and 9 units down. The arrow notation, though, would look like this. X subtract 4, because again, that means 4 units to the left, and y subtract 9, because that means 9 units down. Again, the translation rule. Students do a lot better when it's just looking like this, but students tend to struggle when it's the picture. Always start on the pre-image, no matter what, but especially on the picture. So essentially, don't start with the ones with the little prime marks. You know that's not the original or the pre-image. All right, give you a moment to think about this one. How does a x become x prime? So notice the first number, -5. How does that become a 3? And then how does the 1 become a 1? Oh no, 1 second. Silly lights. All right, hopefully you know the words again. -5 is going to have to move to the right to become a 3, kind of like adding. And the 1 is not going to move at all because, again, it has to stay at 1. So if you want to set it up using your equation again, it's going to look like this. -5 plus the number, which is really the movement. Again, it's the x location So it's not this big capital X, it's talking about the X movement, which is the left and right movement on the X axis. We're going to add 5 to both sides. So we had to move to the right a bunch. Specifically, we have to move to the right 8 spaces. The y again, 1 equals 1, so obviously my y is 0. There is no movement on the y at all. So if you were to put that together with your arrow notation, remember the 8 is referring to moving to the right 8 spaces. The 0 for the y is talking about not moving up or down. So we would say x plus 8, because again, it's 8 spaces to the right, and then y stays by itself. We don't need the 0 at all. Oh, our time is up with notes. So again, on the worksheet, please be very, very careful. At the beginning ones, you're just going to do your practice counting, moving left or right, then up or down. Remember, always start with the left or right, then think about the up and down. The rules, make sure you are starting on your pre-image and then moving to the image, or start on the original and move to the new, or start on the regular letter and then move to the prime letter. You guys can do this. All right, be awesome.